This is Bill Joyner, and the title of today's video is The Day I Whooped the TV Preacher. Now, I was in a little cafe in the square, down on the square in Decatur, Texas. And this cafe was known far and wide for its homemade pies and all-you-can-eat catfish on Fridays. Well, one Friday I was in there, and I knew most of the people in there. You're in a small town, everybody knows everybody. But there was one table with a group of about a half a dozen strangers. I didn't know them, but one guy kind of dominated the conversation, and it was obvious he was the top dog. I heard somebody whisper next to me, "Hey, that's the guy that preaches on TV." Now, Sandy was an attractive blonde waitress that worked there, and everybody loved Sandy. She loved people, and she always called everybody, man, woman, and child, honey. So she walked up to their table, looked at the TV preacher. She didn't know he was the TV preacher, and said, "What do you have, honey?" Well, his brow wrinkled up, and he looked down his nose at her and said, "Ma'am, nobody calls me honey but my wife. Furthermore, I'm a preacher of the gospel. My name is the Right Reverend Nathaniel Bogus, and I am God's messenger to this world. So you need to show me the respect that I'm due." Well, Sandy and everybody else within earshot were a little stunned. And I could tell by the look on her face she was a little confused. But then I saw tears well up in her eyes. That was just too much for I've never been very good at biting my tongue. Even though right now it was difficult because I was already working on one of those great coconut pies. But I stood up and I said, "Mister, I don't know where you're from, but here in Texas, we treat our women with more respect than that. You need to watch your mouth." Now, the Right Reverend Bogus got up then and took a couple of steps towards me. And he was kind of a little short, squatty fella and had thick rolls of fat on the back of his neck, and his face was red. And said, "Sir, you don't understand who you're talking to. If you're not careful, my God will smite you." Well, I looked at him and said, "Honestly, I'm not too worried about that, because my God eats your kind of God for breakfast." At that, the Right Reverend Bogus took a couple of more steps and got right in my face. And he poked me with that little thick, stubby finger right in the chest. And this time when he spoke, he spit all over me. And he said, "Sir, you're going to hell." Now, I don't know if it was the spitting on my face or the poking in the chest, probably both, but my maturity level is not very high to begin with, and that pushed me over the edge. Now, I'm not a fighter, but at that point, I just instinctively took a step back and threw the sweetest punch I'd ever thrown in my life. Now, I can't tell you that God guided that punch, but I can't tell you that he didn't either. My right cross hit him flush on the chin. And when he hit the ground, it was like a watermelon hitting the floor from a two-story drop. At that point, the other people started to cheer a little bit and even applaud. And I was a little embarrassed about that. But I stood over this phony prophet And I said, "Sir, consider yourself smited." And I went back to my table and renewed my love affair with coconut pie. Thanks for joining me today, and I'll see you next time.